So you're looking at this picture and you're probably thinking, this is absolutely ridiculous. There is no way that these robots are the future of AI. And why might this be a reasonable thought? Well, one reason is that there's another agent in the picture who has access to information that the robot does not have. And that's what I would like to unpack. So what are our AIs really good at, right? Why do we need a team? Well, our AIs are really good at looking at large amounts of electronic health record information and remembering that funny lab test that happened many years ago that has been completely forgotten. They're also great at looking at everybody else's records and comparing you to them across socioeconomic groups, across race, across gender. And this might be really important if you come from a group that isn't traditionally represented in clinical trials. They are also good, as we've heard, at processing large amounts of textual data. In contrast, the human has access to you, right? They have access to your tone, your confidence, your appearance, and just as importantly, they can have a discussion with you about treatment decisions when all options come with benefits as well as drawbacks. And this is why I argue that at least in healthcare, the future of AI is as an augmenter or as a natural team. And what I'm going to do now is give you two stories about this in action from our group. The first story is a story about disease subtyping, specifically in autism spectrum disorders. And a common adage in ASD is that if you've met one person with ASD, you've met one person with ASD, because there is so much heterogeneity in how this disease presents itself. But at the same time, accurate characterization is critical to treatment, so we can guide different patients to the treatments that are relevant to them. To tackle this problem, we looked first at 4,000 records of patients, and we looked at their entire record. We didn't just look at the social part of their record or the behavioral part of the record, things traditionally associated with autism. We looked at the whole thing. And we used structured topic models to combine this information with ontologies of how clinicians think about all of these features. And the first important thing we found were 3 novel subtypes of autism characterized by all the other things going on in these children that had not been previously known about, and that point to the fact that maybe autism spectrum disorders is caused by many different things, right? The thing that presents itself with the social and communication thing actually is being caused by different underlying causes, and each of them may be needed to treat it, and may be treated differently. The other important thing is that, remember I said now we were looking at all the features, right? We're looking at thousands of features. But by using these ontologies, we were able to compress the description of each of these subtypes to 10 to 20 terms each. And that's really important if we're giving this information back to a clinical researcher, because now this is a hypothesis to be followed up on and further understood. We went on using dynamic topic models to validate these results with a much larger data set of both electronic health records and now notes written by caregivers on online health forums. And we're getting to the point where, while we can't say for sure that a particular child is going to have a particular condition in the future, we're getting to the point where we can at least say, hey, your child is at high risk for seizures. Maybe you should know what to do if something like that happens in the future. Right? So we're bringing this from a population level of disease characterization to the individual. The next story that I want to tell you about is about when to wean patients in intensive care units. And this is a really tough question because obviously the patients who come into the ICU are in really bad shape, right? So we want to reward the algorithms for making decisions that are accurate, but you also want to be able to not penalize algorithms for situations where nothing could be done. So what do we do here? We look at the vital signs of the patients and we compress that into one statistic, which is the probability of successful wean, right? Probability of success, you can take the patient off the drug. And we validate that against notes in the electronic health record. And we find that our results match very closely to the doctor's notes. And as a byproduct, we also are able to categorize how conservative doctors are being. So this has two implications. First of all, this is still an augment, right? Because there's a lot of information that's not in these vital signs that's going into these decisions, right? So this is something that's compressing all of this data into something that can be used for a decision. But now, by knowing how conservative physicians are being, maybe we can also try to cut down the length of some of these extra care times. So here's what I see as AI in healthcare, as a colleague who can process lots of information and make substantiated claims. So we're already doing great work in this area, but I just want to highlight a couple of areas that are really necessary for future progress. We need robust inference, but we really also need interpretable models. Because if AIs are going to be colleagues to augment our intelligence, we need to be able to understand them and communicate with them. We also need some really important structural advances. In particular, it's not just about teams of AIs and clinicians, it's also about incentivizing team science between computer scientists and clinical researchers. I sit in a computer science department, and I've seen just too many really brilliant people who care a lot about healthcare turn away from this area because it's just too hard to work in. And one of the things that we're doing in this space is we are forming a new conference, Machine Learning in Healthcare, happening in August in LA, muckmed.org, that's bringing together both clinicians and computational scientists to showcase cutting-edge work and also build collaborations. Just to conclude, this isn't a job for like 10 of us or 100 of us. It's going to take a big team. We hope that you'll be part of it. Thank you.